Let's dive into a really fascinating, kinda strange idea from the psychologist Abraham Maslow. It's a paradox that might just be holding you back in ways you don't even realize. And it all kicks off with one simple but really deep question.
Seriously, why? Why do so many of us, right when we're on the verge of being our absolute best, get this sudden wave of fear and just pull back? It makes no sense on the surface, right? But it's an incredibly common, very human thing to do.
So to understand this, we've got to talk about the man himself, Abraham Maslow. He had this core belief that every single one of us is born with what he called a will toward health. Basically, it's this natural, built-in drive to grow, to learn, and to become the absolute best version of ourselves we can be. Maslow called the very peak of this journey self-actualization. It's you realizing your full potential. Sounds great, right? But here's the twist. Maslow said very, very few people actually get there. So, what's stopping us all? Well, it's not always about failing to get our basic needs met, for food or love, although that can be part of it. No, Maslow pointed to something much more subtle, an obstacle that doesn't come from failure at all, but from the terrifying idea of our own success. And he gave it a name, the Jonah complex. At its heart, it's an unconscious fear of succeeding, a fear of becoming the best we can be. And the crazy part? Maslow believed that pretty much everyone has this complex to some degree. So why call it the Jonah complex? Well, it's a nod to the biblical story of Jonah. He was called by God for this huge, important purpose, but what did he do? He freaked out and literally tried to run away and hide from his destiny. And that's the perfect metaphor for what we do. We actively run from our own potential. Okay, so what's this number? 195. Any guesses? This was Abraham Maslow's own IQ score. Yep, the man was a certified genius. But get this, despite having that incredible mind, he admitted to being just an average student. And even when he was a world-famous psychologist, he would often feel this intense panic right before giving a speech. Think about that. The very man who identified the Jonah complex felt it himself. It really shows you this is a fundamental part of being human. Which brings us to the big question. Why? Why on earth would we actively try to sabotage our own fulfillment? It sounds nuts. Well, Maslow zeroed in on two main reasons that explain this self-defeating impulse. First, there's the fear of ecstasy. Maslow's theory was that our bodies just aren't really built to handle pure, unfiltered joy for long periods. You know that feeling when something amazing happens and it's so overwhelming you almost can't stand it? That's the feeling of, this is too much, and our instinct is to pull back. Then there's the fear of arrogance. We all have these private dreams, right? Ambitions to do something great. But then we look at the giants, the Einsteins, the Picassos, and we feel almost embarrassed by our own ambition. We tell ourselves, who am I to even think I could do that? So if you put those two pieces together, the Jonah complex is basically a defense mechanism. It's our psyche's way of protecting us from feeling overwhelmed by amazing emotions and from the shame of feeling like an arrogant phony. It keeps us safe, sure, but it also keeps us small. And this whole complex doesn't just pop up in those huge life or death moments. Nah, it shows up in our everyday lives, all the time. And here's the sneaky part. It's often disguised as something we think is a good thing.
Maslow called it false humility. This is when we downplay our talents, say no to big opportunities, or set our goals way lower than what we're capable of. We're not doing it out of genuine modesty. We're doing it because we're scared of our own potential. We use being humble as an excuse to avoid the terrifying work of being great.
And the impact of this is huge. It's not just some harmless little quirk. This is a powerful force that crushes creativity. It convinces us to aim lower in life. And ultimately, it's the main roadblock that stands between us and self-actualization, keeping us from ever really knowing what we're fully capable of. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Now that you know about this fear of success, this fear of ecstasy, this whole trap of false humility, take a moment and ask yourself, what greatness are you running from?